Moscow claims traffic has partially resumed on the Kerch Bridge after a truck bomb caused part of it to collapse on Saturday. While visiting troops in Lithuania, Germany's defense minister called on NATO to do more to protect the alliance against Russia. People wait in long queues outside petrol stations in France as energy workers continue their strike for higher pay to match inflation.
Hundreds gather at Buddhist temples in northern Thailand to pray for the 36 people, including 24 children, killed at a preschool.
Long queues of cars wait at the entrance of the Kerch Bridge, which has been severely damaged after a truck bomb exploded on the vital piece of infrastructure linking the Crimean Peninsula with Russia. Moscow claims that vehicle traffic has partially resumed after part of the bridge collapsed on Saturday. Ukraine has not claimed responsibility for the attack, but its president indirectly acknowledged it. Today was a good and mostly sunny day on the territory of our state, about 20 degrees and sunny. Unfortunately, it was cloudy in Crimea, although it was also warm. But no matter what the clouds are, Ukrainians know what to do, and they know that our future is sunny. This is a future without occupiers, throughout our territory, in particular in Crimea. After the explosion that killed 3 people, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a decree tightening security for the bridge and for energy infrastructure between Crimea and Russia. The bridge is both a symbol of Russia's annexation of the peninsula and an essential supply line for its troops in Ukraine's south. However, after the explosion, Moscow claimed its forces will be able to receive supplies through a corridor and by sea, while rail traffic along the bridge has also resumed slowly. Some lawmakers in Russia responded to the attack by calling on Putin to decree a counterterrorism operation in Ukraine, potentially causing an escalation in the war.
Residents in the recaptured Ukrainian city of Lyman await the distribution of humanitarian aid. It was only last week that it was liberated from 4 months of Russian occupation, and the authorities now have an enormous support task on their hands. You know, almost all the occupied settlements share the same problem, says this spokeswoman for the Donetsk Regional Administration. They're completely destroyed. The infrastructure as well as the houses. And we can see what people need most is psychological support. The flag flies proudly at the entry of the city, but behind it are scenes of devastation. Tetiana is wearing recovered Russian army clothes because her own were destroyed when a rocket hit her house. I was at home when we were struck, she says. I fell into the bathroom and my daughter was in the hallway. How we weren't killed, I don't know. Some Lyman residents express anger towards neighbours who supported the pro-Russian separatist movement before the war. Alexander is proud he held on to his Ukrainian flag. I saved it, he says, because I was waiting for the Ukrainian army to come to liberate us from the Russian yoke. The liberation may have come, but the reconstruction has only just begun.
Germany's defense minister has called on NATO to do more to protect the alliance from Russia. Christian Lambrecht made the statement while inaugurating a command center in Lithuania. The center is meant to help move a brigade of 5,000 German troops to the front lines within 10 days if necessary. Her Lithuanian counterpart said this brigade assigned to Lithuania is deployed to Lithuania within 10 days. 10 days. This is very fast. Let us recall that in the case of Ukraine, the information about the concentration of Russian forces on its border was known for almost 90 days. Germany deployed its first troops to Lithuania in 2017. In June, it agreed to ramp up its mission in the country because of the war in Ukraine. And since then, Lithuania and its neighboring Baltic states, Estonia and Latvia, have been calling on NATO to increase its presence in the region. Around 20% of petrol stations in France are dealing with fuel shortages, as a strike by Total's energy employees continues. And many people are now dealing with long queues to fill up their cars. I woke up at 4 a.m. to get gas, and now it's going to be around 4 hours. Now it's going to be 4 hours if there's gas at 8 a.m. It's going to be 4 hours that I'm waiting to be able to put gas. That's the thing with everyday life. Life things. We have a car, we put gasoline as if you go to the bakery. You buy a baguette of bread. I don't understand. I don't understand. It's difficult for me to understand why we end up in such situations. The strike that started over a week ago is mostly over a pay rise to match inflation. It was originally only supposed to last 3 days, but has continued as negotiations stalled. The unions representing the workers say it is willing to begin negotiations on Monday based on pay alone.
The ministers of the interior of Cyprus, Greece, Malta and Spain met in Paphos for the fourth ministerial meeting of the Med5 group of countries, although the Italian minister did not attend. The group called for more action to protect the EU's external borders.
We call upon the Commission and the Council to finally acknowledge the increased duties assigned to frontline member states. It is essential to provide for an effective, predictable and mandatory solidarity mechanism that reflects the needs on the ground.
The Med5 group also referenced the war in Ukraine and its effect on the global economy in making action even more urgent, fearful that migration will surge.
The impact of the war and the increasing prices of basic commodities have resulted in a new wave of economic migrants. Sub-Saharan migrants who originally seek employment in Libya and turns to smugglers when things do not work out as planned. People are dying around us, a tragedy after another, from Lebanon to the Atlantic.
We Southern European countries know that no system can ever work if the burden of responsibility continues to fall almost exclusively on the countries of first entry. The events of recent months should make more and more countries, more and more member states aware of this reality.
Euronews' Apostolos Staikos was at the conference. He said from 2015 until today, the countries of the south have received significant funds to manage the large number of refugees and migrants they received. Yet many believed that this money was given so that the south could be turned into a big prison where people arrive and get trapped. The Med5 argues that this is a common challenge and that all countries must take their responsibilities.
Από την Πάφο για το Euronews, Apostolos Staikos.
Prayers for the 36 people killed, including 24 children at a preschool in northern Thailand. Grieving families gathered at Buddhist temples to make offerings to the spirits of their deceased toddlers. The ceremony will take place over 3 days before the cremations and burials on Tuesday. It follows a rampage by a former police sergeant who shot and slashed them with knives on Thursday. The 34-year-old was named as Panya Kamrap, who was fired earlier this year because of a drug charge. When he left the daycare centre, he drove home and killed his wife and son, and then took his own life. The mass killing was the nation's deadliest. Hundreds of climate change activists blocked 2 Total Energies oil sites in Belgium on Saturday against the use of fossil fuels. The demonstrations at Feur-Louis and Liège were triggered by the growing income of energy companies amid a global energy crisis. Further similar protests were set for Sunday by the Code Rouge organisers. Thousands protested across the United States against the Supreme Court's overturning of the federal right to abortion. The demonstrators also urged voters to turn out in a Democratic blue wave in next month's key midterm elections. Protesters are concerned the elections could have a decisive impact on the future of such rights.
Several hundred people gathered in Montenegro for its 10th LGBTQ+ Pride Parade. The march took place under the slogan, "No More Butts," and organizers called for authorities to do more to prevent harassment and hate speech. The country's initial Pride parades were met with violence, and on the eve of the march, hundreds of people participated in a prayer protest against the Pride Parade.